Hare Krishna. So we'll resume our discussion on chapter 10 of Bhagavad-gita, verse 30. Praladaschaśmi daityanam kala kalyatamam mriganam cha mrigendroam venateyascha pakshinam. Among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Pralad. Among the subduers, I am time. Among beasts, I am the lion. And among birds, I am Garuda. So, Prahlad Maharaj was born in the family of demons. His father was Hiranyakashipu, who was the son of Kashyap and Diti. So, the Daityas are descendant of Diti. But Krishna calls upon Prahlad Maharaj as being exceptional because of his unwavering devotional service to him. Then amongst the subduers, I am time. The destructive power of Krishna manifests as time. So this is one of the more metaphysical aspects of spirituality, that even though we try and measure time and we say in terms of days and months and years, cycles of time, etc., but these are all the secondary aspects of time. Really speaking, the primary aspect of time is destruction. And we see in history there are powerful kings and emperors who ruled and conquered, but they were all ultimately conquered by time. The only ones that are not conquered are those who have surrendered to Krishna. Then Krishna says, amongst the beasts, I am the lion. So the lion is considered to be the king of the jungle. And among birds, I am Garuda. So he says, Venateha. So Garuda is the son of Kashyap and Vinata. So Vinata is one of the wives of Kashyap, one of the daughters of Prajapati Daksha. And she essentially has two sons. The elder one, Aruna, became the charioteer for Suryadev, and the younger one, Garuda, is considered as an eagle, and also the other bird species descend from him and from Vinata. So Garuda is famous for his strength, and once, in order to free his mother, so there was rivalry between Vinita and her sister Kadru, who is the mother of the snakes and serpents. So Vasuki and Ananta Shekha, etc., they're all descendants of Kadru, who is the sister of Vinita. So once there was some rivalry between the two, and they placed a bet, and Vinita, Kadru actually won by cheating. So as a result of that, Vinita became the slave to Kadru for a period of 100 years. So then Garuda, he went to Kadru saying that, what can I do to free my mother? So then she said, you get nectar, steal the nectar from the demigods. So this is the nectar that was produced during the churning. And then there is an elaborate pastime how Garuda went, and the nectar is guarded by several divine soldiers, divine weapons, but he steals the nectar, and Indra then throws the thunderbolt at him, and Garuda is so strong that nothing happens to him. He actually, just to show courtesy to the weapon, he drops one feather. That's about it. So Lord Vishnu was very pleased by this prowess, by the strength of Garuda, and he says, you ask for benediction. So Garuda asked for two benedictions from Lord Vishnu. One, he said that, so he did not want to taste the nectar for himself because he had essentially stolen it, and he gives it to Vinita had asked for the nectar to make her sons immortal, the snakes. But Indra said, they are envious by nature, you have stolen this nectar, if you give them, then their enviousness will become much more potent. So Garuda said, I've already promised. So he gives the bottom. So they come up with some kind of of a side deal, so to speak. So he so Garuda places that pot of nectar in front of Vinita, in front of Kadru, and then Kadru turns and invites her sons. They take a bath and come and eat and partake of the nectar. And by the time they came, Indra stole it back again. So in this way, Garud was able to satisfy the requirement, free his mother from slavery. But while Indra was taking back the nectar, a drop of nectar actually fell on the kusha grass. And the snakes, the sons of Kadru, they were so upset that they greedily licked the nectar of the kusha grass. And kusha grass, as you know, is very, very sharp. So that's how their tongues got cut, and they have forked tongues. And also the drop of nectar that they had, which they ingested, because of the envious nature, it became poison. So that's how the snakes also have this poison effect. It's also mentioned that during the churning of the ocean, when Lord Shiva was drinking the halal poison, then a few drops of poison fell, and that was also partaken of scorpions and snakes and other poisonous creatures. So that was another source of their poison. So anyway, the second benediction Garuda asked was that he becomes a carrier. So one, he asked that, may I be immortal without having to drink nectar, and Lord Vishnu said okay. And the second, he said, may I be your carrier? Lord Vishnu said okay. So then that's how Garuda gets the position of being the carrier for Lord Vishnu. And it's explained that in Vrindavan, one of Krishna's associate is Sridama. Sridama is the elder brother of Srimati Radharani, and he has a mixture of dasya and vatsalya. So he's older to Krishna. He has a protective nature to Krishna, but also very strong mode of servitude. And Garuda is considered to be an expansion of Sridama, just like Narad Muni is considered to be an expansion of Madhumangal, the Brahman friend. Okay, let's move on to the next verse. Verse 31. Bhavana pavatamasmi Ramah shastrabratamaham Jashanam makaraschasmi Shrotasamasmi Janvi. Of purifiers I am the wind, of the wielders of a weapon I am Ram, of fishes I am shark, and of flowing rivers I am the Ganges. So Pavana Pavatamasmi, that wind is a purifier in the sense that when the wind is blowing, then it's not possible for any bad fragrance to stay. The wind blows it away. Sometimes if there is a stagnant air in a room and it smells of bad odor, then you open the door and the window, run the fan, and then it feels like it is fresh. So Krishna says, the purifiers and wind, then Rama Shastra Bratamami. So the Rama in the shlok, the Acharya says, refers to Parshuram. So amongst the wielders of weapons, Krishna says, I am Parshuram. Parshuram, the son of Jamadgani, was one of the greatest warriors. He decimated the Kshatriyas 21 times, including the very powerful Kritarjun. So the acharyas say that so Ram generally could be understood to refer to one of three personalities: Balram, Lord Ram, Ayodhya Nandan Ram, and Parshuram. So the acharyas say here it refers to Parshuram because Parshuram is, whereas Lord Ram and Balram are non-different from Krishna. So they are same Vishnu Tattva. Parshuram is a Shakti Veshavtar. He's a category of a jiva that is empowered with the Dushtadaman Shakti. Dushtadaman means the prowess to punish the Dushta. So so because this is talking more about the existence of the material conception. So Krishna is drawing the attention to Lord Parshuram as the foremost of the wielders of weapon. Then Makar is a kind of a shark. So amongst the fishes, the shark is special, even though the whales can be bigger and more majestic, but the sharks are widely feared, and they embody the best of the fishes in many ways. They swim very fast, very fierce. They are feared by even much larger fishes. And then Shodasham Asmi Jahanvi. So Jahanvi is Ganges. So Ganges, when Bhagirathi got the Ganges down to the earth planet, then there was this Rishi, Jahanu Rishi, and he was in meditation at the time, and he was disturbed by the flow of the river. So not knowing much about where it is coming, by his mystic powers he actually drank the entire river. And then Bhagirath came back, and he apologized and he glorified Janu. And Janu, being a benevolent saint, then he allowed the river to flow back out from his knee. From knee he made a hole there, and allowed the river to fall out. So one of the names that Ganges got was the daughter of Jahanu Rishi. So she is known as Jahanvi. So in India there are so many rivers, and there are most of the rivers have some piety associated with them, whether it is Yamuna or Godavari, but Ganges is the foremost. There are so many ghats next to Ganges. Of course, for Vaishnavas, Yamuna has also a special place because it flows through Vrindavan, and Krishna performed many pastimes there. But from a general sense of performing auspicious pious activities, Ganges is considered to be foremost. Okay, next verse. Verse 32. Sarga namaadirantascha madhyam chevaham arjuna adhyatma vidya vidyanam vada pravadatamaham. Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end and also the middle, O Arjun. Of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self. And among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. So, the creation, Sarganam, here refers to the creation of the jivas. So, Krishna says, Adis Antas Cha Madhyam. So, Adis is the beginning, Antas is the destruction, and Madhyas is the maintenance. Now, jivas, essentially, we know they are spirit souls. They are never created and they are never destroyed. But in this context, Krishna is speaking about the embodied soul. So there is a certain point of time when the embodied souls appear in the creation. Sarga is there is Sarga and Visarga. So Sarga is the primary and Visarga is the secondary creation. So at some point in Sarga, Krishna, by his glance, he embeds the jivas into Prakriti, and then the process of creation begins. And then at the end, when the universe is destroyed, then Krishna winds up and takes the jivas back into his belly of Mahavishnu. So in 1020, actually, Krishna had also spoken about a similar point, where he said that he is the beginning, middle and ending, but there the reference was to the material elements. So as we know, when the universes are created, there are two kinds of creations that happen. Of the material elements, which is the Panchmahabhuta and all the other planetary system, etc. And the conditioned jivas. So the two verses are 1020 and 1032. These lines complement each other. Krishna essentially is saying that I am the beginning, middle and end of both the material as well as the jivas in the universe. Now, of the kinds of knowledge, Krishna says that he is Adhyatma. He says Adhyatma Vidya Vidyana. So Vidya, knowledge, can cover many things. It can cover the laws of nature, it can cover politics, and cover economics, political science. But the best knowledge, Krishna says, is Adhyatma. So Adhyatma is Atma actually refers to the self, but also refers to that which is spiritual, transcendental, Krishna. So Krishna says the best knowledge is the knowledge of spirituality, which is the study of Bhagavad-gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Vedas, etc. And then he says, Vada Pravadatam Aham. So essentially, these are debates. So Pravadatam is, Prabhupada translates as arguments, which means debates. So there are three kinds of debates. So one is known as Vad, one is known as Jal, and one is known as Vitanda. So in Vitanda, the focus is in defeating the opponent. And there are three ways that the opponent is defeated. One is by chal. Chal literally means cheating, but here it means circumvention. That one bewilders the opponent by saying, well, what you said over here is not true, and then quote some statistics which is partially applicable. So by chal. Then the second is jati, is by false generalization, wherein the person is making a point, and then you defeat the point by extrapolating that point and saying that so if you think that getting up early is good, then better is one does not go to sleep. That would be best. So these are false generalization. And the third is what is known as Nigrasthan, which is syllogistic faults. So syllogistic faults is essentially finding logical faults in the person's argument. That you are saying that B is dependent on A, but actually it's not, because A is dependent on B. So in Vitanda, the focus is to use these three things, Chal, Jati and Nigrasthan, to prove the other person wrong. In Jalpa, the focus is to not only prove the other person wrong, but also to prove your own points as correct. So debate is generally between two point of views. So it is one step higher than Vitanda. In Jalpa, you use these three ways to prove the other person wrong, and you use these other three ways in an opposite sense to prove that you are right. So you use circumvention to prove that you are right. You use generalization and use logic to prove that you are wrong, that you are right. So in both, in Vitanda and Jalpa, the focus is on winning the argument. Whether it is by proving the other person wrong or by proving the other person wrong and proving yourself right, the focus is simply on winning the argument. The participants are not much interested in the topic per se, and they're not much interested in really getting a proper understanding of the topic. But in a discussion where the focus is in establishing the truth, that is known as Vad. So Vad is where people are willing to be proven wrong, where people are willing to support the other person's points, but the discussion is essentially in order to establish the truth. So sometimes it is said, this is generally in preaching also, that sometimes there are arguments, especially when you're preaching to somebody who is not favorable, and it's said that when the discussion is generating more heat than light, then one should step away from the discussion. Sometimes devotees say Krishna is God, other person says no, Krishna is not God, everybody is God, and then there is a there is a debate that is happening. But as soon as the devotee sees that the mood of the debate is not so much in establishing the truth, but it is more in defending one's own position and defeating the other position, the devotees will immediately step away. And they say, okay, Prabhu, no point. Because that's not the purpose of spiritual arguments. The spiritual arguments, the purpose is to make sure that the other person walks away with more attachment to Krishna. So Krishna says that those kinds of debates that are focusing in determining the truth, Vad, Krishna says, I am that. Okay, next verse. Okay, verse 33. Akshara nama karo asme dvandva samashikasya cha aham evakshayah kalo dhatam vishvato mukha. Of letters, I am the letter A, and among the compound words, I am the dual compound. I am also inexhaustible time, and of creators, I am Brahma. So, amongst all the letters, the letter A, so here in English it's written as A, but essentially it is, in Sanskrit it is A, like Krishna. So, the letter without A, it will not be possible to pronounce anything. So even the consonants, they can only exist when they are conjoined with A. So in Shruti it is said akaro vai sarvavaka, that the letter A is all letters. Then Krishna says that amongst all the types of compound words are essentially hyphenated words. When there are words that are joined by hyphen, so there are different kinds of compound words. There are avyaya bhava, tatpurusha, bahuvrihi. So in these type of the two words that are conjoined in the compound, one word is guru and one word is lagu. And one word is heavier than the other. One word is given more importance than others. But in a special type of compound word called dvandva, then both the letters are given the same weightage. So because there is symmetry there, Krishna says that amongst the compound words I am dvandva. So Prabhupada gives the example of compound word like Ram Krishna. So Ram Krishna, he says, is called a dvanda. In this compound, the word Ram and Krishna have the same form, and therefore the compound is called dual. Now, there is no connotation to the significance of the words. That doesn't mean that Ram and Krishna are exactly the same. There's no connotation to the meaning of the word, but this is more from a constructional perspective. That because Ram and Krishna have the same form, then the dual word Ramakrishna is called Dvanda. Then Krishna says that amongst the destroyers, I am the indestructible Kala. So in verse 30, Krishna has said, Kala Kalyatam Aham. There he has said, amongst the subduers I am time. So there are two aspects of time that Krishna talks about. One is that time subdues everybody and everything. So people who are strong will become weak with time. Countries that are powerful will become not powerful. At one point, Bharat was the most powerful country in the world. It was an economic powerhouse. Now it's not so much. It's beginning to grow again. But 20 years ago, it was considered to be one of the poorest countries in the world. Similarly, about 100 years ago, there was this saying that the sun never set in the British Empire because it spanned the entire globe. But now it's shrunk to the point that it's just a collection of islands, and even that is further shrinking. So this is all the destructive potency of time, that it destroys everything. Here Krishna is talking about the universal destruction. So Acharya said that here Krishna is referring to the fire that emanates from the mouth of Sankarshan at the time of universal destruction. Right? So there it was the weakening potency of time, and here it is the destructive potency of time. And then among creators, so everybody in the universe is a creator. So those of us who are parents, we create progeny. So this is all secondary, tertiary creation. But Brahma is the primary creator. Everything comes from Brahma. Now, Brahma comes from Krishna, but amongst the material conception, Brahma is the foremost of the creators. So he's called Dhata. Dhata over here. So Krishna says that I am the four-headed Brahma. Next verse. Verse 34. Mritya sarvaharasham udbhavascha bhavishyatam kirti shirvak chanarinam smriti meda dhriti kshama. I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So, Mrityu Sarva Harashaham. It's an interesting statement. So, Krishna here says that of all the kinds of death, I am that death which is Sarvasa Sarvaharas, which is all devouring. So, the way to understand it is that death is something that is happening continuously. At every moment, one is dying. And then there are different kinds of death also. There is the death of the body. There is the death of one's vitality. When one is in a disease state, then there is the death of one's ability to do physical activities. So there are many deaths that are happening. Of all the deaths, Krishna says, I am that which is Sarvaharas. So Sarvaharas is essentially the death that happens when one gives up the body. And the Acharya said that Sarvaharas over here is pointing to the memory. So in all the other kinds of death that are happening, one still retains their memory. So even if one is diseased, they still remember things before they were diseased, while they were diseased. As one is becoming older, this is the gradual death that happens. But that death does not cover one's memory. Maybe it may weaken it, but it does not cover one's memory. But the death that happens when the soul leaves the body, at that time, the memory is destroyed, sarvaharas. So when the person takes birth in the next body, then they have no memory of their previous births. Now, it's also said that memory is not taken away, but it is covered. It's still in the subtle body. But from a practical perspective, the person forgets. So Krishna says, I'm that death that happens when one completely loses their memory, which is at the end of their life. Then udbhavascha bhavishyata. So this is the birth. So at the time of the birth, one is setting the stage for the future transitions to happen. So only when a person takes birth, then one is setting the stage for the transformations of growing, producing byproducts, dwindling, diminishing, maintaining. So all these transformations, they begin from birth. So Krishna says, I am that birth. Then he talks about 7 qualities, or he glorifies 7 qualities. He says, Kirti. So Kirti is fame because of good qualities like religiosity. Shri is opulence or beauty, specifically in the areas of dharma, artha and kam. Right? So generally we consider wealth to be the bank balance, but here Krishna means wealth in the area of dharma, artha and kam. So artha is one part of it, but wealth in terms of dharma and kam also is considered to be Shri, or Shri is also considered to be the effulgence of the body. Then Vak is speech, fine speech. Essentially it means cultured language by which one can express anything in a pleasing way. Smriti is memory, is the ability to remember everything that one has experienced. So earlier on, the people in the earlier ages, they were Shrutidhar, which means that if they heard something even once, they would remember it forever. There are still some people in the current age, very rare, but I think it's called eidetic memory, where once they hear something, or even if they see something, they remember it forever. It's rare, but it's there. In the earlier ages, people generally had this ability, that whatever the Guru told them once, whatever mantras were recited, they would remember that forever. So Krishna says that Smriti. Medha is understanding what you have heard or read, or the ability to understand the meaning of many scriptures. Dhriti is steadfastness to withstand agitation, or the power to extinguish agitation when it appears. And Kshama is forgiveness, or it's unchanging in joy or sorrow, the equanimity. So Krishna talks about these 7 qualities. Now, there are 3 ways in which one can understand this when Krishna is talking about this opulence. One is the more straightforward way that Srila Prabhupada is translated, where he says amongst women, the 7 qualities that are listed beginning with Kirti are Krishna's vibhutis. So this is a more literal understanding. And so among women, these 7 qualities, Kirti, Shri, Vak, Smriti, Medha, Dhriti, Kshama, when they appear, they are Krishna's vibhutis. Second way to understand is that they are essentially, each of these 7 are actually Devis, and they are the wives of Dharma, and they are considered to be the foremost of women. So amongst all the women, these 7 women, and so Dharma has many women, so that's why the word wives, like Murti also, so that's why the word Cha is used. But amongst women, these 7 women, Kirti, Shri, Vak, Smriti, Medha, Dhriti and Kshama, are considered to be foremost. And the third way to understand this is that in Sanskrit, these 7 qualities are feminine by nature. So in Sanskrit, adjectives also have a gender. Generally in English only nouns have gender, but in Sanskrit adjectives also have gender. So these 7 qualities are feminine by nature. So in that context, one can read this verse as saying that of qualities that are feminine, of all the qualities that are feminine, then fame, fine speech, etc. are the best. And just by possessing a reflection of these qualities, men become praiseworthy. Men and women become praiseworthy. So there, in this, the holder of the quality, whether regardless of the gender, whether they are men or women, become praiseworthy, but the qualities themselves are feminine. So amongst men and women, those who possess these 7 qualities that are feminine in nature become praiseworthy. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Okay, verse 35. Brihat sam tatha samnam Gayatri chandasamaham Masanam margasisham Ritunam kusumakraha. Of the hymns in the Samved I am the Brihat Sam, and of poetry I am the Gayatri. Of the months, I am Margashirsha, November, December. And of seasons, I am the flower bearing spring. So in the verse 22 of this chapter, Krishna had said that amongst the Vedas, I am the Sam Veda. Now he drills down more and he says amongst the various Psalms. So Sam Veda is essentially an extract of the Rig Veda, and it consists of hymns that are beautifully composed that are meant to be sung. So they're called Samas. So amongst the Samas, there is this special kind of songs that is known as Brihat Sama. So they appear in the Chandogya Upanishad of the Sam Veda in the second chapter, 14th Khanda. So Brihat means large or prominent. So these hymns, they have a very exquisite melody, and they are sung at midnight, and typically at the conclusion of ceremonies. And most of them are focused on praising of Indra. So they also describe the world activity as per the movement of the sun across the horizon. So Krishna basically says that of the Vedas, I am the Sam Veda, and among the Psalms, in the Sam Veda, I am the Brihat Psalm. Then he says that amongst the verses endowed with meter. So in composition, you will see there are verses and proses. So verses are those that are meant to be sung. We see Bhagavad-gita. So Gita means, Geet means song. So Bhagavad-gita is song of God, and it's a song because the verses are sung. So they have a very particular meter, and one sings the meter. When there is some flexibility also in how you sing the meter, but they are essentially sung. Proses are those that do not have rhythm in them, so they are mostly read. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the majority that we see, they are they're basically with a meter that are sung. In the Bhagavatam, it's a combination. So we have some verses that are sung, and there are some that are in prose. Like in the 5th canto, when the universe is being described, the Vedic cosmology is being explained, then most of them are proses. So technically, a combination of verse and prose is called a champu. So amongst that, which is when those that are sung, Krishna says, I am the Gayatri. So literally speaking, Gayatri is Gaya Trayati. So Gaya means that which is sung, and Trayati means gives liberation. So Gayatri is those verses that are sung which give liberation. So in the Chandogya Upanishad, it is said, Gayatri va idam sarvam bhutam yad idam kimcha. That Gayatri is all that is, and whatever being exists. So when the universe is created, the first pranav, the first sound that appears is the Om, and from Om appears the Gayatri. So when Brahma is born, then Krishna chants the Gayatri mantra, or sometimes it says the flute. The Krishna, when he plays the flute, what emanates is Gayatri, and when it enters the ears of Brahma, then he becomes qualified to construct the universe. So Gayatri is given to the Dvijas, at the time of the second birth, spiritual initiation. So the first birth is a seminal birth, the second birth is by Guru, and the Guru gives the second birth at the time of initiation by chanting the Gayatri mantra. So for those of you who are Brahman initiated, you have this experience that when you receive the Brahman thread, then a respective spiritual master also chanted the Gayatri into your right ear. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, in Sanskrit, there are definite rules and regulate poetry, rhyme and meter, poetry, rhyme and meter are not written whimsically. Amongst the regulated poetry, the Gayatri mantra, which is chanted by the duly qualified brahmanas, is the most prominent. So actually, brahmanas here does not point to caste brahmins. It's those who are becoming brahman by initiation. Prabhupada says Gayatri mantra is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, the Bhagavatam is considered to be a commentary on one of the words of the Gayatri mantra. So, in the Gayatri mantra, one of the words is Dhimahi, is that let us meditate upon. And the very first verse in the Bhagavatam also has the word Dhimahi, Satyam Param Dhimahi, that let us meditate on the Supreme Truth. So that way we understand that the Bhagavatam essentially is expanding from one of the words of the Gayatri, which is Dhimahi. Prabhupada also says that one must first acquire the qualities of the perfectly situated person in the mode of goodness in order to chant the Gayatri mantra. So Prabhupada used to be very critical of this loudspeaker Gayatri mantra mentality. So you see that in India, especially in Vrindavan or holy places, where the person may be selling potato chips and chewing gum, but he'll be playing the Gayatri mantra at full-fledged. Or there may be just people sitting and chanting Gayatri mantra. And Prabhupada was critical, saying that Gayatri mantra is only meant for those who are strongly in the mode of goodness, which means that at least they're following the 4 regulative principles, and they have been deemed qualified by the Guru. So the Gayatri mantra, unlike the Hare Krishna Maha mantra, the Gayatri mantra is considered to be a Guhya mantra. That even when the Guru gives it to the disciple, then he chants it in secret in the ear. And when the disciples will chant the Gayatri 3 times a day, even then it's a mantra that's not really chanted but meditated on. So one should not actually speak the mantra. So if you look at the procedure to chant the Gayatri mantra, it is said that your mouth should be closed and your tongue should be firmly against the roof of your mouth, which means that neither your tongue should move nor your mouth or lips should move. Essentially what it means, the Gayatri mantra is chanted within the mind. And the reason is because of its purity. And most of the Vaishnava commentators, they will not write the Gayatri mantra in the books. So they may just write Om Bhur Bhavas and ... in order to preserve the sanctity of the Gayatri mantra. So Brahma was the first one to receive the Gayatri mantra from Krishna. And then from Brahma went to Bhrigu and the Brahmans, etc. Okay, so we'll pause here and hopefully we'll finish the discussion on the Vibhutis in our next discussion. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai.